Wallace and Gromit in the Grand Getaway is an incredible narrative-driven VR experience for the MetaQuest that has you following Wallace and Gromit through their adventure. The narrative is just as you would expect from a Wallace and Gromit title, with its witty and dry humor. So let's talk about it. I review every game I play, and if this is something that you enjoy, then consider giving it a like, and maybe subscribing too. As we dive into the Grand Getaway, we are immediately greeted by Wallace and Gromit. Wallace has a holiday vacation planned but lost track of time, and needs to get to the other side of the country in just half an hour. This is where things get exciting, as you pack up and prepare for a rocket launch, which is the only method of transportation that will make it in time. If we take a look at the graphics, while we are on this journey, things may look a little bit blurry and jagged. This is because the graphics in the Grand Getaway are not quite optimized for the Quest 3. Things in the distance look a little bit blurry, and you may see jagged edges on objects. However, the animations are fantastic, and the artwork is exactly what I would expect from a Wallace and Gromit VR title. The environments are very well crafted, with good attention to detail, and I felt each environment was unique enough to keep me excited. If we take a look at the gameplay, Wallace has you working hard in this one, and at first you're left with the task of preparing a rocket ship for launch. Many of the tasks are simple, but sometimes the instructions are not so clear, so you're left fumbling around a bit while trying to figure out what you need to do. Luckily, you have Barrel, a radio robot who helps you through some of these tasks, and to remind you of what you need to be doing to move forward with the narrative.
You're a genius.
You also have a scan mode, which helps you find objects you're searching for, and also functions to teleport the player to a new location. This is a fun and interactive way to move around. You can extend your arms to grab objects from afar, but this mechanic does not stay consistent throughout the experience, and you're not always able to quickly pick things up that are out of reach. This has you moving around your play space to reach items that are just out of reach, which means playing seated isn't possible. You can pick up objects, but I found this to be quite a challenge at times, as the game wants you to place your palm over an object before it can be picked up, which can become awkward as you fumble around when this should be an easy task. Outside of this, the Grand Getaway has you completing various puzzles and minigames which are all quite brief, yet unique and fun in their own way. These minigames can be replayed once you complete the main story, with leaderboards to challenge the friends that I don't have. The sound design in the Grand Getaway, while simple, is fantastic. There's nothing fancy going on here, but things sounded as expected, which is good. The voice acting is phenomenal, and the music fits perfectly within the Wallace and Gromit realm.
Music to my ears.
If we talk about comfort settings, unfortunately, every VR comfort option that you can think of does not exist in the Grand Getaway. This is because they simply did not include any options. While playing through the Grand Getaway, you will often find yourself just out of reach of some items you may need to grab or interact with. This means there are not any precise teleport options to get you closer to objects that you are required to interact with, so make sure your play space is big enough. There are no smooth turn options, there are no seated mode options, there aren't any colorblind options, and you guessed it, no sound settings either. This, in my opinion, sucks. Here's why. Wallace and Gromit in the Grand Getaway is a narrative-driven VR experience that is about 1.5 hours long. With that in mind, the devs expect you to experience the story while just standing there. Most of the time, in the Grand Getaway, you're just observing the narrative, and this made me want to relax and sit down, so I did. The issue with sitting down is that when you do need to do things, suddenly you need to stand up again because there are no comfort options to accommodate for seated gameplay. We are living in a time where VR is emerging to become one of the next big platforms of technology that millions of people are using, and perhaps billions will be using in the near future. This means we have a lot of people to accommodate for. Everyone is different, and some people, like my mom, cannot bend down, twist, or otherwise move her body in ways that others can. Many other devs already figured this out, so they added comfort options to make their games more accessible and available for people to play how they desire. Seated and standing options, smooth turning and snap turning, teleporting and smooth locomotion, using virtual crouch options, and even colorblind options are something that should be a standard for VR. But some developers are still missing this crucial aspect of VR game development. Let's hope we can get some of these options added in the future, because Wallace and Gromit in the Grand Getaway is a perfect game for seated gameplay. Unfortunately, right now, it does not have the option to support it. If we take a look at the story in the Grand Getaway, this is fantastic, and it's exactly what I would expect out of a Wallace and Gromit title with its witty and dry humor. It took me about an hour and a half to go through the entire story, which really is a Grand Getaway. Replayability is lacking a bit, as all you can do is replay the minigames that you enjoyed while experiencing the narrative. There's a bonus mixed reality mode as well. In the mixed reality mode, you're shooting jam at toast. I see the potential for fun, but I personally had some issues getting it to work. If we take a look at the bugs and issues, obviously the mixed reality mode had some trouble. Puzzles are also sometimes frustrating and just poorly designed. There are two simple puzzles that stand out to me that I had some problems with. One of them has you moving a stone slab with your hand, but you are timed and you need to move the stone quickly. This is quite challenging, because your hand needs to be in such a precise position to move the stone that it becomes frustrating really quickly as you repeatedly attempt to wave your hand around to move it. The other issue I found is with a nav device you need to place into a slot.
Just pop it into place and we're all set.
The issue is that the slot that you needed to place it was crammed into a drawer that could not be opened. To complete the task, I had to flail my hands around while jamming the nav device into the drawer in hopes that it would wiggle around into the slot that it needed to go. Eventually it worked, but it wasn't fun, and I was very close to just giving up and ending my journey here. So, you're wondering, is it worth it? I personally really enjoyed Wallace and Gromit in the Grand Getaway. The witty and dry humor, fantastic animations and artwork, and brilliant voice acting kept me immersed in the Wallace and Gromit realm. The story was fun and engaging, while simple enough for anyone to enjoy. However, without any comfort options like a seated mode, and with a couple of puzzles to be quite frustrating, I found Wallace and Gromit in the Grand Getaway to be lacking a bit of polish. As always, modern games are forever changing, which means developers are constantly able to update their game. Hopefully things will improve in the future. While I really enjoyed the Grand Getaway, I cannot justify the cost with what's offered with its short narrative and very few minigames. I'm curious whether you think it's worth it. Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, then please consider giving it a like and subscribing. I review every game I play in VR, so make sure you stay tuned for more, and I'll see you all in the next one.